Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Bookseller Lightning Talk series, in which booksellers present short talks on tech tools, organizational strategies, communication methods, or innovations they've made in their stores. Aysia Brown is going to be joining us here from Protagonist Black, talking about supporting indie authors in your store. So, Aysia, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you, and it's all you.
Okay, I am going to start sharing. If y'all could let me know once you see the presentation, that would be amazing. I'm seeing thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So my name is Aysia Brown. I am the co-owner of Protagonist Black with my husband, Kevin Brown. We are based in Fontana, California, which is in the Inland Empire. If you're not familiar with this area, it's about an hour east of Los Angeles, somewhere inland from the beach, hence the name. And it encompasses some of the largest counties in the state. We started our shop because we live in virtually a book desert. So the closest indie bookstores to Fontana, where our home is, they're about 40 minutes in opposite directions. So there is definitely a need, and we sought to meet that need. So about a year ago, as of Juneteenth, Protagonist Black was born. And one of the unique challenges that we face, that I know that we all face, is how we can support our local indie authors and what that looks like in a business where the margins are super slim, and y'all know all the stories, right? So before I get more into how we do that, I want to share a little about our shop. So this is our mission statement, and it's important to me to read it out loud so you kind of know what we're walking into the room with. As a business, as owners. But Protagonist Black is an indie bookstore specializing in culturally diverse books and cocktail pairings. We do a lot of programming around cocktails. We celebrate the unexpected by centering the voices that have been marginalized within the literary world. We honor our customers and community through our foundational commitments. There are three: literacy, liberation, and lituations. Everybody's always like, what is a lituation? And culturally, for us, that is just a really fun gathering of folks coming together to have a good time, which we truly believe reading is experiential. So that's what we try to hone in on and make sure that folks feel like they're a part of something, including our local authors. When we first started, I didn't realize how weird that could get, having people come up to our spaces, because we operate in 2 to 3 areas, right? So we are a pop-up shop, meaning that we have a regular farmers market date that we do every weekend. We also do special events, some that we plan ourselves, some that we're invited to. And we also have a shared space within this really, really cool organization called the African American Advisory Alliance, where multiple small Black-owned businesses have retail spaces like the one you see on the far left of the screen. All designed to their specs, all supporting small businesses and selling their wares. It's super cool. You can see what our pop-up looks like at the bottom right. Some of our event check-in. 2 of those girls on the bottom left are our kids. So we have a good time. We move around a lot. We're very nimble in how we present ourselves to the community, which means that we end up meeting lots of people, lots of book people, and lots of authors. So we came up with this Friends of the Shop program because we realized very quickly that we were going to have to find a way to handle this, but we couldn't physically, because of space constraints, because of financial constraints, carry all of the books that came before us. These are some of the authors and artists that we have worked with thus far. And what we like to do is, instead of taking the onus to sell their books ourselves, to purchase them and then resell them or do consignment, we give them a platform. So one of our signature events is called Reading on the Rocks, a spirited book fair. It is essentially a grown-up book fair, cocktails, music, vibes, books. It's a whole thing. That was the first event we ever did. And the first time we did it, we got 200 people out, and it's just kind of grown from there. So for a pop-up, we were kind of patting ourselves on the back a little bit for that kind of community response. And so from the very beginning, we have folded our indie authors into that. Like, hey, we can't maybe personally sell your books, but there are these opportunities. This is what kind of crowd you can expect. And these are just a few of the folks who have worked with us thus far. And like I said, we focus on authors, of course, but we also work with artists, photographers, things like that. And so, Bestie, let's not make it weird is kind of my tagline for for these conversations, because I understand that it's very difficult for an author with this dream, this book baby, to approach a bookseller, bookshop, bookstore, pop up and say, hey, can you carry my book? Just as difficult it is for me to say, probably no. And so this is what we've done instead. So and I can send out this email. I'm not going to read it all, but there are some things that I want to highlight. Whenever folks ask me in person, I give them our general Protagonist Black info at email address. And I say, hey, send me your name, the name of your book, a picture of your book, and I'll send you some information back on how we handle that. It makes it easier to engage them in a friendly way, but not make any commitments on the spot in the affirmative or the negative, right? And so they'll typically do that. And then this is the email that we get back, that they'll get back. Some of the highlights of our program, some hard lines for us is that the author has to reside in California, and then priority is given to authors from the Inland Empire and the greater Los Angeles area, because we are limited in our space and what we carry. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the talent in our community. We have to be able to buy it at 50% of the retail price. This is not a consignment program. So we're not going to, hold it and let it occupy space and then return it to you if it doesn't work out. We knew that we didn't have the staff to manage something like that. And so we were like, how can we just make this clean? Because if we do decide to carry a book, ultimately it's something that we believe in and we can hand sell. That's one of our internal hard lines. Our collection will always reflect the beauty and diversity that this shop is known for. So everything at Protagonist Black is written by a BIPOC author or creator. And so we make sure that our friends of the shop are in alignment with that as well. And review copies are a must. If you're not willing to give us one to check out, then we're probably not willing to carry it, because why are you hiding it? And so my 4-year-old is like, Mom, but I'm pretty sure it's about a popsicle, so I'll let her sort that on her own. So yeah, those are some of the rules that we've lived by thus far. Another unofficial rule that we use is that our events are kind of our trial run, right? So if we're thinking about carrying you in our store, we'll invite you out to Reading on the Rocks. And if your book sells really well there, then we'll probably purchase it in small quantities. If it does really well with us, maybe we'll buy some more. So we are careful to be welcoming, but not make any guarantees. And so, yeah, that's kind of it. I'm going to stop share because I can't see the chat. Popsicles are important. Yes, especially in the IE. It's been like over 100 degrees for the past week. So, yeah. And yes, George, I can share it. If you want to shoot me your email, I can forward you the email that we use as if you were an indie author, and that way you can have it and experience it in real time.
Yeah, and Aysia, actually, if you want to just send that to me, I can post a link to it with the video on BookWeb.
Okay, awesome. I will do that now. No problem.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
This is absolutely incredible. And I know that, again, working with indie authors has in fact been just recently in the Facebook groups, quite the discussion. So if anybody has any additional questions or any hot tips on what they've done in their stores.
Yeah, this was a tough lesson for me. I've only been open a year. And so people would come in, and one of my missions was I wanted to support the community. And so someone comes in from the community, hey, I wrote this book. And you look at it and there's a typo on the cover and you're like, Oh no. And yeah, and it's like I got myself into some tough situations and wasted money in the beginning just buying it from them because I wanted to support them. And I like this idea of like having events and they come and they sell their stuff and then they go away.
Yeah, and they do those sales directly with us. So we don't get involved in the exchange of money or anything like that. We let them know that, you know, these are the currencies that we accept and this is how we process payments. And so we just ask that you can do something similar. Like don't, you know, if it's going to be sketchy, let's not. So that has been really good. And then another thing that's at the end of that email is if we haven't contacted you within 60 days, that means that we probably won't be able to move forward with your book. So instead of having to say, you know, we don't like it, or, you know, this is why I hated the cover, it was AI, I could tell. Like instead of, you know, doing those mean things, we just kind of let it drift off into the mist, and that has been okay. Rarely, very rarely, we have people kind of circle back, and at that point we can have a conversation, and usually that's, you know, unfortunately this quarter we just don't have the capacity, but we'll keep you in mind, and that has worked out pretty well. Lean into the awkward. I tell them it's weird for me too. I'm like, I always say something like, thank you for being brave enough to ask. Like, that's so cool. And congratulations on your project and finishing it. That's such an amazing feat that not many folks can do. So kudos to you. And I'll email you if it's the fit. And then just kind of exit stage left for sure.
Morgan.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like this concept because we do consignment at our shop. But like often I remember a lot of times we do consignment, we'll just take three books on hand and then we'll do like a whole contract situation. And then when the book doesn't sell, the question is just like, well, you didn't put my book here. Was it here or here? But I'm like, I like how your idea is just like, okay, well now you can come to the events and you like kind of sell yourself in a way. And plus authors love being involved too. So I think that's a win-win. It takes like a little bit of the burden off of you. So I think that's dope.
Yeah, and it's been a kind of feather in everyone's cap for them to be able to market and say, we're doing events, we're doing signings, we sold X many at this event, for them to get feedback directly from consumers, because oftentimes they kind of share with us that they're on this island by themselves and it's them and then maybe their editor and then they're hitting the streets, which can be tough. So having the opportunity to have folks who come to this event for books, to talk about books, to, you know, interact with self-published authors, it's been really helpful. And if it doesn't go well, it wasn't us. You know, we gave you the same opportunity that we gave ourselves. And so that's been really cool. And it's allowing us to expand. This is like a little bit of a tangent, but one of the things that we're planning for August is a human library. And so we are inviting some of those indie authors out to share their stories and how they became writers and things like that. And then I am designing, based on the folks' life stories or whatever things they want to highlight and share, we're designing book displays to sit next to them that relate to what they're sharing. So we have like some community activists that we're planning to come out. And one of the questions for them will be, what's like your activist origin story? Like what got you excited for whatever, you know, you advocate for? And so we'll have titles related to that topic so that people can further explore. And that's kind of in lieu of our traditional book fair this quarter. So getting to know the indie authors, getting to know their journeys really has given us opportunities to conceptualize events that wouldn't have been on our radar, without interacting and talking to them about their journeys and why they write what they write. So hopefully that's cool. Fingers crossed. I don't know. We'll see. There'll be cocktails. That helps. We'll see.
But will there be popsicles? We all know that's
Apparently there needs to be. Popsicles are having a moment in my house.
Uh-huh. That's amazing. Kelly Justice posted in the chat about some attention that they've been getting recently. Kelly, would you mind giving us a very, very brief insight into what y'all have been dealing with? So I think it's directly related to a lot of the stuff that Aysia is talking about here. Oh, Andy as Kelly. would love to hear from you.
Hey, y'all hear me
Hello.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm on the store account, so I'm back here listening. Yeah, so we it was subtweeting, so we didn't really see a lot of it, but an author had tweeted that they had gone into some bookstore that was not us and were upset at the way they were treated. The bookseller didn't really react very kindly to them. I don't know what store it is, so I wouldn't call anybody out. I don't know who it was. It felt that they weren't listened to, weren't respected. And then, you know, how people do on Twitter, they just piled on. So someone local to us says, oh, well, my local indie says, don't even bother. And everybody was like, oh, that's awful. What? So then they shared our link. The part that kind of amused me was that all of the booksellers are like, that's great. We think we're going to use that. We're going to steal that and put it on our site. So um, there was one or two people that said, oh, well, I'm never going to shop there again. Like, but we have also done presentations, and by we I mean Kelly Justice, our coordinator, has done a really thorough presentation that you'll find the link to that in the link that I put there. We did an event with a bunch of local authors and just invited them all to come to the store, and we talked about practices, things to do, how can we help you, and it worked out great. And the really big thing that we tell people is be a familiar face. You know, if somebody that we know because they come in and chat with us and are friendly says, hey, I wrote a book, we're going to be excited for it. We're going to do what we can. And at that point, you probably will have known, maybe don't publish it. You want to get it into indie channels and things like that. So it ended up, I see it as a really positive experience as much as it can be on Twitter. You know, we got really more support than anything else. And it was for people to say like, oh, we think they were very clear and respectful.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how kind of the vibe can be very different once you get on the internet. But I do really like the clarity that y'all have laid out. We also at our Winter Institute, we normally do a education for authors session that includes best practices for bookstore events and like how to actually engage with the bookstore. So I'm tossing a link in the chat as well, which is also in the bookstore resource library on BookWeb. And I'm excited to get
last night comment I will make is a person who says, oh, my indie won't do it at all, is somebody who published a $45 paperback that's only available.
I mean, you think the traditional publishers are jacking the prices up, and then you look at an indie author trying to make the ends meet. So
exactly.
it's a bit much. Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Andy. I really appreciate it. Okay, Aysia, thank you so much. What an incredible program, and just a really important way of framing it. And I think that so much of what we do and like creating a positive experience for our both our customers and our local authors, who are a lot of times one and the same. It's all about the way that we approach it, and it seems like you've really nailed that. So I love that. Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!